Hola, geek fans! Welcome back. It's time for another Geeks at the Movies review, and today we're reviewing the classic Steven Spielberg movie, Schindler's List. I got Rachel McLeod joining me. I'm Shane Gooderich. Schindler's List stars Liam Neeson as Oscar Schindler. It also has Ralph Fiennes and Ben Kingsley. It's about the story of a man named Oscar Schindler, who was, during World War II in Germany, a war profiteer. At first, he got in on the game to make money by selling materials to the German army, and eventually he comes to learn, you know what, there's things that matter more than profits, and he decides to use his immense wealth that he's created during the war to save his factory workers, to save his Jewish workers. He saves over 1,000 people in the end. This man is a true hero. Schindler's List is an amazing document of his story. Tell me, Rachel, what did you think of this movie?
This movie is fantastic. In terms of Steven Spielberg films, I put this one at maybe like his best work yet. Definitely his best work. More serious work than he's ever done. Obviously more serious than E.T. and some of his, Indiana Jones films.
E.T. and Indiana Jones aren't serious?
They're
What?
serious, but this is a whole different genre of serious here. We're talking about basically more than just a movie. This is a memorial. And he takes a very personal interest in this movie. He's very emotionally invested in this film. And I haven't seen the likes of this kind of craftsmanship from him since maybe Empire of the Sun. And that's another early film, early 80s, starring a very young Christian Bale in his film debut. But anyway, Schindler's List. Fantastic film. Very well done. I would say very intelligent film. And like you say, basically this is the story of Oscar Schindler, who in his own words would say he's a businessman, a war profiteer, a member of the Nazi Party, an employer of slave labor, and even a war criminal to some extent. And little does he know that he becomes basically a hero for about 1,100 plus Jewish workers that he's saved by basically bribery, essentially, which is kind of interesting. It's an interesting point. He saves them through his money. And he comes to realize that people are more important than profits.
And at the very beginning of the movie, you see that Oscar, he's not necessarily this ardent supporter of Nazism. He's not a huge national socialist. Right. Oh yeah, Hitler's awesome. He doesn't care. He just goes, oh look, there's a war going on. There's these people that are being disenfranchised. I can use their money, I can use their labor, and I can make lots of money off them. Cool. I mean, he's even friendly with the Jews right from the very start. He's like, look, we're gonna negotiate a deal. You can't get money anymore. Well, I'm gonna give you pots and pans. I'm gonna give you things you can trade in the black market.
Right.
You know, I'll help you out. You help me out. He's just trying to make money. That's all he cares about. And then as the movie progresses and the situation in Germany gets worse and worse, because first, the Jews are put into the ghetto. So they're all rounded up. They're taken away from their homes and they're put into this confined area. And that's terrible.
Right.
But then slowly the ghetto, they leave the ghetto and they go to the concentration camps, and they see, and Schindler sees the brutality, what's happening, and goes, this is bad, this is terrible. And over time he slowly starts to use his money, not so much to make more money, but to keep his workers alive and intact.
Right.
Literally.
Right, but that becomes like a gradual process for him. And the movie does a wonderful job of pacing. You might be intimidated by the long, lengthy runtime of this film, but I tell you one thing.
Over 3 hours.
This movie will engage you at every single moment. It engages you. There's not a single boring moment. There's not a single moment where you're going to be sleeping through this film. You can't sleep through this film. You just simply cannot. It's impossible. There's just so much wonderful acting. There's so much wonderful storytelling and craft work that's gone into this movie that it's entirely engaging. I really recommend that you take this movie seriously, and I think you will definitely not be disappointed by this film.
One thing I really like about the film, too, we should mention, is it's shot almost entirely in black and white.
Right.
And this is to invoke the Holocaust footage that we have seen. When you were in school, you were in 8th grade or whatever, they would show you footage from the Holocaust. And of course, generally speaking, it was in black and white. So Steven Spielberg wanted to maintain this sense of this is a real thing that actually happened. So he could have put it in color, but it kind of would have distanced you from the history that you already knew. So he matched it with that history that you knew. He matched it with the films you had seen, and it strangely makes it more real.
Very much so. I mean, for what I said, when I first watched this movie, it really had that feel of you're watching a newsreel. You're watching the documentary footage of, say, the Holocaust films. You're watching even maybe home videos from the period, from the 30s and the 40s. It's like you're watching old family photographs. You're seeing history come alive. And I think the wonderful thing about the black and white is I was so much more focused with the storytelling than, oh my God, that's Ben Kingsley. Oh my God, that's Liam Neeson. Oh my God, that's Ralph Fiennes. I totally lost all sense of this is a performance. This is a story. This is a reenactment of history, or this is history as seen as they would see it, and perhaps even as they would film it on location at the time that these things were happening. Black and white was just a wonderful way of portraying the realism of this film without the distraction of, oh my God, star power. Because there's no doubt there was star power in this movie.
And I think the acting is phenomenal. So right from the very beginning, we get the sense of Oskar Schindler. He's a playboy. He's out partying with the Nazis, and he's trying to influence the Nazis. So we see this very corrupt system from the start. You know, Nazi Germany was just about a bunch of payoffs and bribes, and who did you know? Who did you know? Who did you know? It's so ridiculous and absurd. Even the people in the party, they kind of, make comments about the Jewish problem. It's like, whatever, I don't really care. I'm just trying to get ahead. I'm trying to get a higher rank. I'm trying to get some more money. I'm trying to take advantage of the situation. Because Schindler gets his position as the head of the Dutch enamelware factory by bribery, by gallivanting around, by being the showman, by making everyone likes Oskar. Oscar's great. In the very beginning of the movie, they show him at a party, and at first he's just sitting there by himself. And by the end of the party, everyone wants to take pictures with him. Everyone goes. One of the Nazi officers goes, "Who's that?" Why, that's Oskar Schindler.
Who spent oodles of money to be noticed. I mean,
just to be noticed.
What I loved about that scene, that really kind of sums up the character of Oskar Schindler. He's an opportunist. And like you're saying, he's just as much willing to do business with Jews as he is with Nazis. So, here, in the early scene, he's setting up himself, he's getting dressed, he's getting his money for bribery all squared away. He goes into this exclusive party, he bribes the waiter, I want that seat over there, closest to the reserved guys. Oh, and by the way, I want to make sure I buy this guy a drink. And that's how it all starts. With a simple offer of a drink to one guy. Next thing you know, the one guy brings over his friend, the next thing it's his dates, and then it's some commandant's like, who's that? Oh, I gotta find out. Next, the man just creates a whole cult of personality around him. He's such a charismatic showman, which leads me to another scene that was really impressive when he first meets Ben Kingsley as Yitzhak Stern.
Oh, I was just about to bring this scene up because I love this scene.
Bring it up.
So they're at this center, I guess, to deal with Jewish problems. I'm not sure what you'd call it. But Oskar, he just jumps to the front of the line because he's a member of the Nazi party. He's not Jewish. And he calls out, where's Yitzhak Stern? Where is he? Right. And people at first are like, uh-oh. Yeah. This is not going to go well for him. They get into a room together, and then he starts asking about this factory and about his business connections. And then eventually, Ben Kingsley's character asks, wait a second, you want me to run your factory? You want these Jewish investors to pay for the factory? What are you going to do? And then Oskar responds like, oh, it's not the work that I'm good at. It's the presentation, right?
Right. The panache.
Oh, yeah.
The panache.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just showing, not the work. Not the work. Showmanship. Which again speaks to his character. He's not a nuts and bolts kind of guy. He's just there.
He doesn't know anything about enamelware or manufacturing.
He's a face. He's a showman. He's an entertainer, and in many other scenes in the movie, you see how much of a showman he is, how much of a party man he is, how much of a womanizer, how much of a chauvinist he is, and how much he's so much about his appearance.
And it's necessary, too. Like, Ben Kingsley is not impressed.
No.
Right? Like, he looks at Oskar like, I can assure you, I know no one that would be interested. Right. He's just not impressed. And then Oskar kind of pushes upon him like, well, you should be interested. You should be, because Oskar sees what's going to happen. He's like, this is not going to go well for you. I'm giving you an opportunity.
Right. As much as he's an opportunist, he's also a realist. And that's probably what feeds his opportunism. He knows what's going on. There's a war. There's a war that he can profit from. But there's also a population of individuals who, if they don't do what he says, could end up being killed.
No.
So it's in their best interest to work for him. It's in their best interest to deal and invest in his company. It's in their best interest to basically like Oskar Schindler.
Yeah, and Ben Kingsley's character, who takes quite a bit of time to come around to liking Oskar Schindler, because for at least the first half of the movie, he just goes along with it out of practical necessity. He's like, well, I can save some of my friends, fine, I don't really like this guy, whatever. He just goes along out of practical necessity. But over time, him and Ben Kingsley, him and Liam Neeson, Oskar Schindler's character, they develop a rapport and an understanding. It's really fascinating seeing these two actors interact.
It's very touching to see the exchanges, but I can definitely understand where Yitzhak Stern's reluctance comes from, the cynicism. I mean, on his first impression of Oskar Schindler, here's a man with a long black overcoat. He looks like he's from the Gestapo. You know?
He's wearing a Nazi party pin.
Right.
The whole movie he has a Nazi party pin. He's big and boisterous. He's telling people what to do. Hey, where's Ishak Stan? I want to talk to him right now because I'm Master Schindler and I talk to him right now.
And just in the environment, who can you trust in that environment?
Right.
We're talking about Krakow in Poland in 1939. Germany has occupied all of Poland, and they're shuffling Jews to God knows where. They're just disappearing. At any moment, any person, especially Oskar Schindler, he could be just one of them, another informer, another Gestapo insider, it could be anyone. So at any point, Yitzhak Stern's life is in this man's hands.
But he soon learns to take advantage of his position to help his fellow Jews.
Right.
And I like another scene that early in the movie where Ishak Stan is talking to people. It's like, oh, there's a new enamelware factory. You can come work for him. You don't get paid, but you can trade for goods. You can do things. And then I like the scenes where they decide who is and who is not an essential worker.
Right. Another great touching scene.
Another great
scene.
scene.
My God.
There's one Jewish character who the guy at the desk is like, oh, you're not essential. He's like, I teach history and literature. When is that not essential?
Right.
Not in the Nazi regime. We don't want to know any of that history or literature stuff.
Right.
That just undermines the regime.
Right, and through the help of Yitzhak Stern, he finally gets some paperwork. I am an essential Medelstein worker polisher guy. He's got a job, his life is saved. But there's other scenes where Yitzhak Stern really kind of introduces a human element that maybe Oskar Schindler overlooked, including another great powerful scene. I thought you were going to refer to it, was the one-armed man, the one-armed machinist, or this press operator.
Yes.
And this one-armed man gets his job working for the enamelware factory.
He's highly skilled.
And he's so extremely grateful, so thankful, that he wants to express his thanks personally to Oskar Schindler. And Yitzhak Stern brings him in during his, I guess a luncheon that he's having, private lunch. And Oskar Schindler's, wondering, okay, what's going on here? And so, oh, Oskar Schindler, I'm so thankful you gave me a job. You saved my life. You saved my life, he says. And
Oskar is very uncomfortable in this scene because he sees he has one arm. He's kind of confused, but he maintains face at all times. Right. He's always, oh, cool, of course, everything's fine, excellent. And then I'm not sure if it's the next day or a few days later. There's a snowstorm, and they have to
shovel snow.
They have to shovel snow, and the Nazi guards, they see this one-armed guy doing the best he can with one arm, and they shoot him in the head.
Right.
And then Oskar goes and complains, and when the Nazi officer says, Oskar, why did you want this guy? He's a highly skilled metal worker.
Right.
He just goes along with it, right? That's like the start of the change, the very first seed, I think.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my theory of the start of the change is another interesting scene. Now, like we said, this is a film that's entirely in black and white, except for very few bits and pieces. And one of the bits and pieces that had a very impactful moment for me was the scene where you introduced to the girl in the red dress or the red coat. Oskar Schindler and his, I guess, wife or love interest, not his wife, his love interest.
There's so many in the movie, it's hard to keep track.
I think it's his wife that visits him, once during this early stage of this film, and they're horseback riding, and they come across and they're overlooking the Polish ghetto as it's being liquidated, where folks are being shifted from the ghettos into trains to go to
concentration camps.
The concentration camps. And as he's watching and observing what this liquidation, he's seeing people getting shot in the streets, openly, in the public. And to him...
Casually. It's like the guards don't even care.
Very casually. And that to me is the moment where things snap in his head. It's like, oh my God, this is real. This is something I can't tear away from. I can't ignore. I can't deny. I can't sleep at night knowing that this happened. This is too real. Especially when he sees the children walking amongst all this killing.
And the girl in the red coat, it's almost like she's must be like 3 years old.
Right.
She's so little and small, the guards don't even notice her. She's just she looks like she manages to escape. We know later in the movie that she didn't escape.
No, and that's part of the symbolism is like any one person, like the odds of a single person making it through that Holocaust are so slim to none, which again speaks to the whole profoundness of what Oskar Schindler had done with these workers and his workforce.
And then we should comment now, though, moving forward from the liquidation of the ghettos, we move to the concentration camp.
Right.
And then we get to Ralph Fiennes' character, who is
oh my God.
What's his name again?
Amon Girth.
Amon Girth.
The commandant of the labor camp in Krakow.
So we move from there to the concentration camp, and then we see the movie is already brutal, and it already shows you the horror of the Holocaust. Now you go to the concentration camp, and who's run by a psychopath.
Right, and it hasn't even really gotten started with the brutality of it.
No. This guy, for fun, sits on his balcony overlooking the concentration camp, and he uses the Jews for target practice.
Right.
Randomly killing people just because he feels like it.
Taking pot shots with a sniper rifle.
Yep.
Wondering where his coffee is.
Yeah.
But I tell you something. I had seen some documentary, behind-the-scenes-ish material out about this film and about Ralph Fiennes' performance as Amon Girth. And the cast and crew, and even some of the survivors, were absolutely terrified of the man because he looked so much like the role. He looked so much like Amon Girth. It was uncanny. And his performance was dead on. I mean, the man just he just oozes evil.
He's truly, he has no regard whatsoever for these people. He has bought into the propaganda. He has bought into his role as the commandant of this concentration camp. I have to control these people. That's it. They're animals to me.
Right.
They're less than animals.
I mean, but even if he didn't necessarily wholesale buy into all of the ideology of the Nazis, he, as a person, his personality, he just simply didn't give a shit. He didn't care. These are others. These are just vermin, rats, he would call them.
Actually, you're right. They're less than animals because at one point they show him, riding his horse and whatnot, and he wants his horse taken care of,
right.
But not the Jews. Who cares about that?
Right. But I mean, he has such a it almost had. Early on, it seemed like he had such a very, I could care less about this job. What a chore this job is.
Oh, it's tedious for him.
It's like, I don't care about these people. I got a whole other shipment of Czechoslovakians coming in, and they need to be...
Yes, he doesn't...
Enough said.
All it is work for him. Later on, further on in the film, he has to dig up a bunch of dead bodies because the Allies are closing in. The Allies are closing in, and Hitler doesn't want them to know about this, about the Jewish problem. They doesn't want to know all the things that happened. So he's just bitching and moaning about, oh, now I got to dig up all these dead bodies and burn them. Oh, what a pain in the ass this is for me. I can't believe it.
Right.
It's amazing. His disregard for human life is astonishing. But what's more astonishing is this is real. This is not, oh, we're making up this fantasy evil character. This isn't Sauron from Lord of the Rings. It's all evil. No.
It's not Voldemort. That's
right.
damn sure.
This is real. This is real people doing really horrible things, and this really happened. And Spielberg shows it to us starkly and plainly. There's no look away.
Right.
Look away. No, though. Here's the shot. Here's what's happened.
There's no kid gloves. This is definitely an R-rated film. When I first saw this movie, I was in high school, and it was like almost mandatory watching.
Yeah, I think I saw it in high school.
But for folks who are young, there was some notion that maybe young kids should see this to get a feel for what my gut feeling is. No, please no. This requires some supervision. This requires an education leading up to this film.
What age would you say would be appropriate?
16.
Oh, younger than that. I'm thinking more like 12 or 13.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd go that young.
This is reality. This is real life. This actually happened. Censoring this kind of stuff is pointless, useless.
Well, I wouldn't say. I'm not saying censor.
Right, but by not
age
showing
appropriateness, I think.
I think I think I was in 8th grade maybe when I saw this. How old are you in 8th grade?
How was I?
Well, how old are people in 8th grade? Are they 13?
Yeah,
I think they're about 13.
Yeah.
So that seems appropriate to me. They showed Holocaust footage to us definitely in 8th grade.
Yeah, maybe.
Definitely.
Maybe.
Brutal pictures of the Holocaust, Jews naked and emaciated, fires. So this definitely, I think, is appropriate.
I guess it speaks to the impact this movie had on me then, because I tell you...
Oh, it's brutal. It's horrible.
It was too real. And then some.
It is real, and then some. That's the thing I like about this movie the most. I hate it when I see films that kind of they don't go all the way. Recently, I saw a film called 12 Years a Slave, and I had seen other movies about slavery, and I thought, oh, those are pretty real depictions. Then I saw 12 Years a Slave, and I went, this is so horrible. Because again, like Schindler's List, they don't do this. They just. Here it is. Here's the shot. Yeah. Here's the brutality, and we're just going to show you it all.
And the camera's still going.
There's
no fatal blacks. There's no moments where you can take a breath and chill. And
it's brutal.
It's ongoing all the time.
What did you think of the central character, Liam Neeson, Oscar Schindler's performance? Because he won an Oscar for this role.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the movie won the Oscar, too.
Oh, yeah. Best picture, best Oscar, best score.
Excellent score, by the way.
Oscar-winning screenplay that was written by the Pfefferbergs, actual Schindler's survivors. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah, there was the character in the movie that was the black market guy in the very beginning.
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
Right. Him and his girlfriend or wife.
Yeah.
which I found fascinating. I didn't know how involved the survivors were. At the very end of the movie, after really the movie is over, there's like an
epilogue.
Yeah, an epilogue that shows the remaining Schindler's survivors, the actual people that are still, they went through this, and they're. I guess there's a monument or memorial that they're praying to or something. Right. It's a very powerful scene, and it's also one of the only scenes in color, because now they bring it back to. At the time, this was in the early 90s, 93 or something. This came out.
93, 94.
Right. So now they're bringing it back to modern times, and look at these people lived through this. Here it is. Here's the world as it is nowadays. And these people have to live with the scars of this event, this horrible event.
And there are scars. That's for sure. Now, getting back to that question, like, what did I think of Liam Neeson? The crazy thing is, when I watched this movie, I wasn't thinking, oh my God, I'm watching Liam Neeson. I'm seeing Oskar Schindler, and that's really. I think some of my favorite scenes, though, that really get at Liam Neeson's ability to portray this character accurately is some of the scenes where he's maybe buddying up with Amon Girth, Ralph Fiennes' character. Like, for example, when he's playing blackjack for the privilege of paying for all the Jews he's going to save.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
There's an interesting little exchange where they're sitting down over cognac or something like that, and and Oskar Schindler's like, okay, what's it going to take for me to get my way to
get out, because at this point
to preserve the lives of those 1,100 Jews that are on my list here. How do I save them? It's like, well, do you play 21? Do you gamble? He's playing up to Amon Girth's habits.
Well, he's playing it to get that one Jewish maid of Amon Girth's.
Right, that too. Yes.
The other Jews, the rest of the Jews, he negotiated previously. How much will each cost me? Because at this point, the Allies are on the borders. They are about to overrun the German army, so they're moving everything inward. So all the Jews there, forget the factories, forget the work, just kill them. Just throw them in the ovens. They're done. Right. But Oskar, he comes up with some elaborate scheme where it's like, no, I need these workers, and he comes up with all these reasons, and again he bribes and blows his fortune to save these people.
Right. So over a game of 21, he's negotiating sort of for the life of Helen Hirsch, the maid of Amon Girth, and it just comes down to, well, how much is it worth to you? Amon asks, how much is it worth to you? How much is a life worth? And for him, it's worth a fortune. He's willing to give everything he's got.
He blows his fortune on saving the Jews, and then at the very end of the movie, they show him in the factory. The Nazis have been defeated. The Allies and Russians have liberated Germany, and it's really interesting because there's a bunch of Nazi officers that are hanging around the factory, and Oskar Schindler talks to them, and he says, "You've been given orders by the higher ups to kill these people."
Right, here they are.
Yeah, here they are. But you can either go home as men, or you can go home as murderers.
Right.
And I like, this is a small touch, but I like how the person that left first was the youngest.
Right.
The one that would probably be least, the youngest officer, the one that would probably be the least likely to be, entrenched in this ideology, be most likely to go, wait, yeah, this makes no sense. Right. And the older officers left last.
Right, right. Like a former commandant or captain of the guard, I guess, was the last one to leave.
Right. And then they show Oskar Schindler, who tells everyone, hey, I'm a war criminal. As of midnight, I have to leave. But all the factory workers come together and they write this giant letter that every single one signs, saying, "This is all the things you did for us. Keep this on you." So they know.
It's a testimony to the man's generosity and willingness to save them.
They loved him.
And fact be known, that testimony is what saved that man's life.
Yes.
It saved his life, and because of that testimony of the Jews that he saved, he was honored by Jerusalem with a tree in the Garden of Righteousness, I think it's called.
The only member of the Nazi Party to have that honor. Right. Only member, because he was an official member of the Nazi Party. Again, it was for show, but it doesn't matter. He did pay his dues and got the pin. Right.
And speaking about the pin, I mean, there's pretty much the last scene of the movie that really impacts the whole thing is he's coming to realize that, or Yitzhak Stern, his accountant, realizes just how much this man paid to save his life and the life of everyone around him. And it's realizing to Oskar Schindler, or the revelation's coming to Oskar Schindler, oh my God, this pin, I could have gotten 2 people with this pin. I could have saved 2 lives with this pin. This car, why the hell did I save this car? That's 3 people right there.
Right.
He's going through like an inventory list of all the things he's had that he's probably squandered or taken for granted or whatever have you.
His high living, his lifestyle.
Right, all these things equates to people that he could have saved if only he sold this or did something with them to pay for another bribe or whatever, another token gift to so-and-so so this man can live, so this child can live. And I'm sure in the back of his mind he was thinking about that girl in the red
Yes, the girl in the red dress.
That he could see if it were just for this pin.
So, well, Rachel, we've been going on for a while now. So tell me, if you had to review this movie on whatever scale you want, I'm going to use my 5-star system. You can use a kitten system. What someone else did. A number system. It's so ridiculous. Just use whatever system you want. Tell us what you're rating this movie.
This movie is off the damn scale.
Off the damn scale.
Off the damn scale. 5 stars, 6 stars, 10 stars. A bleeping universe. Okay, it's a bleeping universe. It's a must-see film. It certainly gets ranked as one of the top Holocaust films out there, and probably one of the top films that Spielberg's ever produced and directed. Must-see. It's going to be an instant classic, and it's a memorial. Definitely see it.
All right, I will give this movie 5 out of 5 stars. This movie is a masterpiece. It's fantastic. The cinematography, the writing, the acting, the directing, all top notch.
The film score is another
film score
tearjerker.
also is excellent. This film is a great historical drama. It's just a great film. It's a masterpiece in cinema. You should go see it. If you're interested in films, you should see it. If you're interested in history, you should see it. If you're interested in historical dramas, you should see it. It's an amazing film.
Right.
Any last closing words?
Man, it's speechless. The movie will render you speechless, and it's a must-see film. Highly recommended.
All right, then. Geeks of the Movie tells you to watch Schindler's List. One warning, though, before you watch it, don't watch the movie if you're in a horrible mood. Don't watch the movie. If really graphic images do bother you, then you might not want to see the movie, because this movie is stark. It's the Holocaust, and the Holocaust is graphic and violent.
It's a very serious film. Do
Right.
take it with a level of seriousness.
And anyways, folks, we're glad you joined us today. We'll be back to review more movies. This has been Rachel, I'm Shane, and we've been Geeks of the Movies. Bang.